Well, thank you very much for this great applause. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Look at all these people out there. That's fantastic. Where were you when I opened up my movie Hercules in New York? That movie went right in the toilet, but that's okay. No one is perfect, okay? But anyway, it is wonderful to be here today. I'm delighted to be here at the Zero Emission Conference and also to be here in Oslo. I love Oslo. It's the first time I've been here, and I love the food. I enjoyed eating here, enjoyed working out here, and also to go to the museum and to see some of the great work from Munch, which is someone that I've admired for many, many years. And of course, it is so nice to also see all the infrastructure that is happening in this town here. My big dream always has been in California when I was governor to build and to build and to build infrastructure. I love infrastructure. And so when you drive around here and you see all those cranes, I was very happy about that. So it's great to see that. Now think about this. Some people talk about 33% and some people talk about 50%, but you here say zero. I love that. And there's some great minds here in the audience. So I'm excited about that, and there's some real great action going on here in this room and in this building. And I always love when we talk about action, because that's what I'm all about, and that's why I did a lot of action movies. Now, we're talking about action, so much has actually changed in this last year. When I agreed to do this speech, I was still governor of the great state of California. And I had no idea that by the time I would give this speech, I would be in the middle of shooting an action movie in New Mexico. And I also had no idea that I would be talking to you with 7 stitches in my forehead. But that's what happens on movie sets. You see, in politics, when I was in Sacramento, that didn't happen. No injuries. I mean, maybe emotional injuries, but not physical injuries. But this is what movie business is all about. The movie I'm doing, by the way, right now is called The Last Stand. And I jump off buildings and I drive cars more than 200 miles an hour and I wipe out the bad guys. And of course, we use all kinds of special effects. But that is Hollywood fantasy, of course. And what we are dealing with here in this conference is reality. And it's serious reality. The reason why I'm saying serious reality, because the US Department of Energy reported just a few weeks ago that in 2010, the global output of carbon dioxide jumped by 6%. By 6%. The world pumped 500 million more tons of carbon dioxide into the air than it did in 2009. Now, I've played in action movies, I've played in comedies, but when it comes to the environment, this is drama. This is drama. Whether it will be tragic or redemptive remains to be seen. But clearly, global warming is the environment's last stand. But I don't want to talk about the seriousness of the science that brings us together here, because we all agree on that. Instead, I want to talk about 3 things. 1, our vision of a green future. 2, how do we sell that vision? And 3, how do we accomplish it? Let me begin with an analogy. A couple of weeks ago, I walked into this gallery in New Mexico where we are filming right now, a gallery that I've known for a long time, and I've bought there many sculptures and paintings and so on. And there I saw some wonderful pieces by a Native American sculptor named Michael Naranjo. Since I'd never heard of that artist before, I asked the gallery owner about him. The first thing she said was, he's blind. He was blinded in the Vietnam War and asked for some clay, for some putty, to occupy his time while he was recovering in his hospital bed. Today, his work is displayed all over the world. And let me tell you, it's very expensive. He sculpts these beautiful figures of Native American warriors and eagles, which he can't see, but only feel. Now that artist had vision. No eyesight, but vision. And he literally molded his vision into a bronze reality. So the question is, can we, like that artist, mold our positive vision into a green reality? So point number 1, if we are going to create a sustainable world, we need a vision. The foundation of a vision can be found all over the world. There are communities and there are states and countries and counties and provinces that have vision and refuse to be paralyzed by circumstances. In my native Austria, for instance, there's a town of about 4,000 people called Güssing, which 15 years ago couldn't even pay its power bill, which was 6 million euro. But Güssing didn't get the memo that the future had to be exactly the same as the present. Guess what they did? It made the decision to generate all of its own energy. Imagine the audacity it took to think that could be done. Güssing's mayor, Peter Vadage, developed policies after policies to encourage alternative energy. Today, the town doesn't import a single megawatt and doesn't rely on fossil fuel at all, but on clean, renewable energy. And because of that green commitment, the local economy is booming, with more than 50 companies coming to Güssing and creating more than 1,000 jobs. Now you may think 1,000 jobs, that's not that much. But for a town of 4,000 people, 1,000 jobs is a lot. And that 6 million euro power bill became a 14 million euro profit. So to me, that is great leadership. And I said to myself right away, and I called the mayor and I said, it's too bad that you, mayor, cannot run other things than this city of Güssing, like Greece or Italy. Wouldn't that be great? See, people like that should be running countries like that. That's right. So when the naysayers say we should wait to move forward with the green technology because of the economy, we can thank Mayor Vadage and Güssing for giving us a vision for what one town can do and what we all can do. Norway has a vision. Norway has a vision. You recently advanced your deadline from being carbon neutral from 2050 to 2030. Jump 20 years, boom. While others want to slow things down, here in Norway, you're speeding things up. And despite Norway being the world's 6th largest oil exporter, 99% of Norway's electricity comes from renewable energy, about 850 small hydroelectric plants scattered all over the country. And as a result, all of Norway's gas and most of its oil are exported. And I love that Norway has invested $3.1 billion of those oil revenues in clean energy in developing economies. Now, when I spoke at the United Nations not too long ago, which was in New York, I bragged about Norway. I bragged about you, all the stuff that you're doing, especially about the streetlights here in Oslo, because you've cut energy use by 70% by using efficient light bulbs and installing a smart system that uses lights only when it is needed. I wonder how much Paris, the city of lights, could save if it followed Oslo's example. I wonder how much Los Angeles would save, or New York, or Beijing, or Shanghai, or Moscow, or any of those cities. But for that, you need vision. Now, we in California also have vision, and we followed our vision. When I was elected governor in 2003, I told the people of California that it was possible to protect the environment and to pump up the economy. Some tried, of course, to dismiss that right away by saying Arnold is a Republican. He's a conservative, and he's driving those gas-guzzling Hummers. He's only saying those things because he wants to get elected. You know about his big ego. They couldn't believe that I wanted to protect the environment. And my Hummers, by the way, run on hydrogen fuel and on biofuel. But after I got elected, I told the people of California that when it comes to the environment, we shouldn't be talking about is he to the left or is he to the right, because there's only one direction to go, and it is forward. We have to march forward. And that's exactly what we have done in California. We moved forward. Right away after I came into office, we started building the hydrogen highway to build fueling stations for hydrogen-fueled cars. So no one can use the excuse anymore, we don't want to build any hydrogen-fueled cars because there are no fueling stations. So we started building hydrogen fueling stations all over the state of California. Then we added 1 million solar roofs. Then the Green Building Initiative to make all government buildings more energy efficient. Then the Renewable Portfolio Standard. Our goal was 20% by the year 2010, which we have reached. And now our goal is 33% by the year 2020. Then the Low Carbon Fuel Standard, the tailpipe emissions reductions, which was so successful that the Obama administration now adopted it on a national level. Now, this is a perfect example of a regional government leading the way and the federal government following. And of course, AB 32, our historic climate change law, where we made a commitment to reducing our greenhouse gases by 25% by the year 2020 and 85% by the year 2050. And I should add that for decades, California has been working to be more energy efficient by establishing great partnerships with ordinary people. Because we believe very strongly that if the ordinary people out there buy into your policies, then you have a win in your hand. I mean, when we in California reach 110, 115 degrees, and we are reaching our capacity with our electricity, we put out the word to the people and say, cut back on your energy. And ordinary people participate in this effort. And as a result, California now is a remarkable 40% more energy efficient than the rest of the United States. As a matter of fact, if the rest of the United States had the same energy efficiency as California, we could literally close 75% of our coal-fired power plants. And that is an equivalent of taking 300 million cars off the road. Now, America only has 240 million cars, so think about that, 60 more million cars off the road. That's how much we would save on greenhouse gases. Now, these environmental policies did not destroy California's economy, quite the opposite. It didn't reduce our state to a hunter-gatherer society. The fact is our economy kept booming. From 2003 to 2007, the first 4 years when I was in office, our economy grew from a $1.4 trillion GDP to a $1.8 trillion GDP, and we created more than 1 million new jobs. In 2007, of course, we all were hit by the global recession, and we lost some of those gains. But today, the brightest spot of California's economy is still our green sector, which has grown 10 times faster than any other sector since 2005. 1 in every 4 solar jobs in the US is in California. 1/3 of US clean tech venture capital flows into California. In 2009, a report from the University of Massachusetts found that clean energy investments generate more than 3 times as many US jobs as fossil fuel investments. And we have certainly found that to be true in California. As a matter of fact, our GDP now is $2.1 trillion. We gained during the recession $300 billion in our GDP. Now that's progress, and it's all because of our green companies. Our green companies are doing great things, like SolarZyme, a company in San Francisco that produces fuel from algae. They've been so successful that they signed a deal now with the US Navy to supply fuel for their fleet. And now the US Navy is so excited about going green that they made a commitment that half of the entire US Navy fleet will be powered by algae-based fuel by the year 2020. And then SolarZyme made a deal also with Continental and with United Airlines to sell 20 million gallons of algae-based fuel to them to mix it in with their fuel so they reduce their greenhouse gases. So there's actions all over the place, and all without this international agreement, may I remind you. And Bloom Energy created a fuel cell in California that takes customers off the grid. Some of the biggest companies like eBay are now using fuel cells to save money and to save energy. And electric car companies are coming to California, like Tesla and Coda and Vision Motors. They came to California because they understood and they believe in our vision. Our ports in Los Angeles, which are the largest in the United States, reduced pollution by 70%, often by doing just simple things like stopping the trucks from idling while they're waiting in line. Today, even the port's tugboats are hybrid. So in California, in Norway, and in Güssing, and in many other places around the world, we have a vision. And our vision is green. Now, this brings me to the second point that I wanted to make here today. How do we sell our green vision for the future? Now, I know a little bit about selling and about promoting, because that's what I've done all my life, with everything that I've done. That's what I did with bodybuilding. I didn't just lift weights, but I wanted to lift the entire sport. I wanted to make sure that everyone enjoys lifting and being fit and feeling strong. So I wrote books on fitness. I did documentaries, like Pumping Iron. Gave seminars, served on the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports, did anything and everything to teach people about fitness. I wanted to create a fitness revolution. And it worked. There are more gymnasiums today around the world than ever before. I did the same with movies. I promoted my movies not only in the United States, but worldwide. And I became the first actor to truly appreciate and to cash in on the global box office. And now I'm trying to promote an environmental vision, which I have to say is a little different than the vision many in the movement have been trying to sell. To start, I believe that doom and gloom never convinces anyone of anything. I mean, how many people do you think would buy movie tickets if they were told, oh, you're going to feel much worse when you come out of the theater than when you go in? Guilt also never convinces anyone of anything. Yet gloom and guilt seems to be a prime argument of so many environmentalists. You can't tell someone who is worried about losing their jobs or barely holding on to their house or having a difficult time providing for their family that they should worry more about melting polar ice caps. And lecturing the developing world is not any more productive. There are people around the world who are just now arriving at the petroleum party. They are as intoxicated by the desire for electronics and automobiles as we are. And the worst thing we can do is act as if we are more enlightened beings that can judge what is right and wrong for other people. The worst thing we can say is, hey, you already been riding the bicycles over there in China for many years. Continue. It will be so much better for the environment while we continue driving our powerful cars. Imagine being handed the keys to your first car and then having someone tell you to leave it parked in a garage. Yet some in the green movement have tried exactly that, to deny the pride and happiness that people in India and in China are feeling in their new wealth and in their new lifestyle. See, that is not an effective communication strategy. We need to sell the benefits of a clean, green economy so that we can create advocates, not opponents, who resent our double standard. They know, because they're not stupid, they know that we, the developed world, have been driving cars for the last 100 years. They know that we have been using fossil fuels for the last 100 years and enjoyed its benefits. And they know also we in the developed world have been actually the ones responsible for polluting the world. So rather than telling them not to do something, we should say, enjoy your rising prosperity. And you know what? You will enjoy your future even more with electric cars, with hydrogen cars, or alternative vehicles. Yes, enjoy your better life, but you will enjoy it more if you use the energy above the ground rather than below the ground. That's what we should be telling them. So it's all about communication. It's all about communication. If I go to my wife and I tell her, hey, I have some Austrian friends over, I want you to make Wiener Schnitzel tonight. I expect the best Wiener Schnitzel. She would say, go to hell. But if I say, Maria, you know how you always make the best Wiener Schnitzels? Better than my own mother made? Could you do that tonight? Because I have some friends coming over, I want to show off a little bit. She would be delighted to do that. See, it's all about how you communicate. That's what it's all about. And what's also important when we talk about communication is that we should communicate more rounded, like a four-legged stool. Because up until now, we've been using a wobbly one-legged stool, which is climate change. Climate change, which clearly is not holding us. So one leg should be climate change. Yes, we should continue talking about it, but let's use also the other three legs. The second leg ought to be jobs. Let's talk about the jobs. Everyone loves to have a job. No matter where you go in the world, people like to work. As we've seen in California and elsewhere, a green economy is a growing economy that creates more jobs. So let's talk about that. Who could be against that? And the third leg ought to be national security. People are always concerned about national security. For decades, industrialized democracies have been in a terrible position of having to purchase oil from foreign countries. And I'm not talking about purchasing oil from Norway or from Mexico or Brazil or so on. I'm talking about from countries that you don't want holding that power to cut off your supplies or to disrupt your economies. Now, you know what countries I'm talking about, of course. And the fourth leg ought to be health. We never talk enough about health. Pollution kills, it debilitates. One study estimated that a staggering 40% of deaths worldwide are caused by air, water, and soil pollution. In the US alone, 100,000 people a year die from pollution-related illnesses, which is more than the combined number of traffic deaths, suicides, homicides, and the military fatalities in Afghanistan and in Iraq. Think about the amount of people that die from pollution. So why aren't people protesting in the streets about the death from pollution like they do about war? Because we are not communicating it the right way. Clean energy can save millions and millions of lives, and it's our job to get that message out there. As a matter of fact, I think the other side is doing a better job in communicating. Those who support the status quo, those who want to continue polluting and polluting, have a very simple argument and a very simple message. They go straight for the gut, appealing to the people's survival instincts, that the only safe course is to do nothing. That if you go green, your economy will crash and you will lose your job. And everything will become more expensive and your power bill, your energy bill will skyrocket. So people get scared. They say, oh my God, that's what it takes? That's what I will get when I go green? Oh, I'm not going to go green. See, that's how simple they communicate. We should do just as simple as they do and as straightforward as they do. And talk to the people about things that really matter to them. Talk about the jobs. Talk about health. Talk about national security. Talk about things that matter rather than talking to them about beetle-infested trees in Colorado or the rising sea levels and melting ice caps. So many people don't get that and they don't even believe in it. So let's talk about things that they can relate to. You can have the best product in the world, ladies and gentlemen, the best product in the world, but if you don't sell it well, if you don't communicate well, you have nothing. No one will buy it. Ladies and gentlemen, right now the environmental movement is just not doing as great a job as they could with selling and promoting our green energy future. And I'm not trying to be critical of the environmental movement because all of the things that we have accomplished in California and that we have accomplished nationally and internationally is because of the environmentalists and of their great work. But I have to say, when it comes to selling our green future, they're not doing as great a job as they could, and I think we have to improve on that. And the third and the last thing I want to discuss here today is how do we accomplish our vision? First of all, I find it ridiculous that some people feel that an international agreement is the only answer to solving our problems. Here we are year after year waiting for the sequel to the Kyoto Treaty. Now, coming from the movie business, I love sequels. I've made a lot of money from sequels, many millions of dollars, but That's not the only way to move things forward and to make our vision become a reality. Let's not just always wait for that. People always say, we need an international agreement, we need an international agreement. I'm the first one to acknowledge the importance of a meaningful pact, but what I'm saying is it's not the only way. And we also can't afford anymore to wait for that paperwork. We can't put all of our eggs into one basket. And we don't have to wait. California didn't wait. I mean, do you think we would wait for Washington? I mean, Washington is asleep at the wheel. We would never wait for anyone that cannot get a budget going for 3 years. Never. So we moved forward alone. California took leadership. We moved forward. In Norway, you didn't wait. You decided to be carbon neutral 20 years earlier. Mayor Vadash didn't wait with Güssing either. Remember, the most powerful movements in human history did not start at the top. They started as grassroots operations. The American Civil Rights Movement, for instance, didn't start at the top. The women's suffrage movement, they gave women the right to vote in America. The anti-apartheid movement, they didn't start at the top. No, this movement started at the bottom and they worked their way up. The movement towards a clean, green future is no different. And in order to empower this subnational approach that I'm talking about, which I felt always very passionate about, we even launched the R20 in my last year in office, which brings together regional governments, community organizations, corporations, and educational institutions to create green progress around the world. So we don't have to rely on wait for these national and international agreements. In this way, we can address climate issues from two directions, from the bottom up and from the top down. And one day, the two movements will meet in the middle and achieve critical mass. Now, to appreciate the power of the grassroots that I've been talking about, look at the cell phones, the mobile phones. I remember that when I bought the first mobile phone 20-some years ago, it was $1,600. And when I held it in my hand, I felt like I was holding a brick in my hand. This is how big it was. The next version was much smaller and much cheaper, went down to $1,200. And then the $750. I remember the last phone I bought for my daughter was less than $100. And when I visited Nigeria earlier this year, gave a speech down there, everyone I saw had a cell phone. As a matter of fact, some people told me that they even had 2 or 3 because the costs have dropped and almost everyone now can afford a cell phone. And you know what? Governments had absolutely nothing to do with that. Nothing. I don't remember, maybe you do, but I don't remember any governments or anyone around the world saying that in 2010, we want more than 4 billion people to be able to reach each other by mobile phone. Was there any agreement like that? I don't remember. You see what I'm saying? But that's exactly what happened. The mobile phone network spread organically. No one shamed anyone into giving up anything. That is how revolutions happen. Some passion, some desire, some need ignites a movement. Governments ideally work together with the private sector to establish consistent, smart policies. And innovators develop then the technology to move things forward and to turn those policies into reality. I believe that the environmental movement will have its own Arab Spring and throw off the status quo. And it will probably surprise us in how it happens. No doubt, we will be looking one way and it will happen another way, just like with the cell phones or with Facebook. For example, just a couple of weeks ago in Fortune magazine, I saw a fascinating article. An article entitled, "The Business of Cooling the Planet." And the subtitle said, "Climate scientists and billionaire backers like Bill Gates are trying to turn down the global thermostat and make money doing it." The article noted the startup companies are working on capturing the carbon dioxide from the air because, believe it or not, the demand for CO2 far exceeds the supply. So imagine making a profit on taking carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It is based on technology, it's based on economics, and yes, it is based on hope. So the bottom line is, if we have a vision The day we long for doesn't have to be as distant as many people think. In Proverbs 29:18, it says, without a vision, the people perish. Now, I might want to improve a little bit up in the Bible here. My addition will be to the Proverbs, without a vision, the people perish, but with a vision, the people flourish. Ladies and gentlemen, in closing, I believe that our people can flourish. I believe our economies can flourish. I believe we can shape the world to meet our green vision. And I believe if we keep our eye on the ball, if we keep our eye on our vision and keep moving forward, what now seems impossible will become inevitable. So thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your kind attention, and thank you for your warm hospitality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. No. Thank you very much, Mrs. Schwarzenegger. Great speech. It's interesting, really, because I tried to hold a speech like that earlier this morning. You did it in a quite other way, but thank you very much. Yeah. I'm just going to introduce the in-depth interviewer. She's a former journalist. She's always very delightful. Her name is Bente Engersland, and she's the head of corporate communications at Statkraft. Bente.
Let's have a seat. I can sit here. Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're so delighted to have you here. You captivate the audience as if we were watching this great movie, really breathtaking, but also very moving. So thank you so much.
Thank you. But let's not get emotional.
But I can't resist this question, though. Now, is being an actor or being a politician the same story? Is it about telling stories?
Well, I think in both cases you have to have a big ego. That's number one. I think number two, there are a lot of similarities. I think that you need to convince people. I think if you're a movie star or if you're a leading man, you have to go and really connect with the people in order to sell the movies well. You're acting, you have to connect with the other actors really well. So the same is in politics. When you talk to the people, you have to connect with the people. I think that the communication is absolutely crucial. I think that your love for being connected with the people has to be the same. And I think that in politics you benefit from your acting training because you're being trained all the time to connect with the people and to be real, not to have words come out of your mouth, but to have them come from your inside, because people will see that right away what is fake, especially now with the close-ups in movies or television. You can see the fake when people start swallowing and blinking with their eyes really fast. Notice you can see that it is not believable if it's believable. The big difference is that in movies, you have a few hundred people on a set that all try to make you look good and studly on the screen. And in politics, you have a few hundred people around that always try to screw you. So no matter what, so that's really the big difference between the two.
But looking at your stitches now, it seems that the movies can be a bit brutal sometimes.
Well, that's, I mean,
these things happen.
Those things happen, yes. You do get injured in movies. I've had many injuries. 7 stitches is a minor injury in my book because I've gotten much worse injuries than that. I remember when I did it, and then the makeup artist said to me, says, "Oh my God, you're going to have this big gash there and there's 7 stitches. Here, let me send you to Oslo with some makeup." I said, no, I'm not going to cover up my wounds. I said, with a man, it doesn't really matter.
But you can use, no, it looks,
it looks perfectly fine, and I think that the
very
people
manly.
here are interested in what I say, not if I have a scar on my forehead or not. So that is not the bottom line.
But having been an actor and being an actor has really helped you in politics.
You know, absolutely. I think, like I said earlier, that to connect with the people is extremely important, and the discipline and to practice and to rehearse and all of those things, very, very important. And I think that my acting training has helped me in policy. But what helped me the most actually was my love for being a public servant. My whole life, as I said, I was not just interested in doing bodybuilding and working out, and yes, I was interested in winning Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia and all this, but I was more interested in the whole idea of elevating the sport, and I was excited about, you know, going out and communicating with the people so that everyone works out. I wanted everyone in the world to work out, and so I went around all over the world promoting, you know, working out and fitness and training, and to participate in something so you feel good about yourself. And it really worked, because now today there are, like I said earlier, more gymnasiums than ever before. Every military installation, every camp, every fire station, every police station, every YMCA, every WCA, every university, every high school. I mean, everywhere you go, there are weight rooms. Even in hospitals for recuperating after surgery, you have, for rehab, you have weight rooms and weight resistance equipment. And so really it has, the revolution has taken off and really had an effect. And the same was like with movies, with action movies that used to have no respect. Now they became really the A-class movies for studios. And I want to do the same thing for the environment. And this is why I feel very passionate about the environment. And I know that I have a certain skill to be able to go out and to sell and to really not blame anyone for anything, but to be as inclusive as possible. Because the big mistake many people make is that they make the oil companies or oil, you know, the big kind of evil. But, you know, if we would take away the day from 1 minute to the next, all the oil and all of the fuels from below the ground, it will be over. There will be no industry anymore. We will tank big time, because we are not ready yet with the electric cars. We're not quite there yet with the hydrogen cars. We're not quite there yet with having enough solar and having the prices come down. So it is a slow transition that we slowly ease off with the fossil fuels and with the fuels from below the ground and increase with the power from above the ground. So it has to be a slow transition, and we have to kind of communicate with the oil companies that they should invest in those future energies rather than fighting it. So that's the key thing.
You're talking about selling the vision. Now, how important is communication going to be for business, leadership, for politicians in order to execute the energy change?
Well, to me, it's very important is to bring people together. Every time I try to accomplish anything in California as governor, and I did it kind of like my way, where I said it's my way or the highway. I could not accomplish it. I mean, I've tried it several times and I failed. And every time I was inclusive and I brought all the parties together and I brought the environmentalists together on the same table with the auto manufacturers and the labor with the business leaders, and we brought everyone together, as difficult as it is. But that's what you have to do, because you are, as governor, representing all of the people, not just your party. And I always said when I came into office that I don't want to be a party representative or a servant. I want to be a public servant, meaning all of the people. So bringing everyone together and being as inclusive is the key thing, and showing a certain vision and guiding people in that direction. You will never get, by working together, all of the things you want, but you can get some of the things you want, and that's how you slowly move the ball forward. That's the key thing.
Was that the key to the success of the Californian Hydrogen Highway, do you think?
Well, I mean, here's a perfect example. I remember when I came into office and I met with the manufacturer, and there's a guy by the name of Terry Tamminen, who was my advisor when I became governor. He's an extraordinary environmentalist, but also a person that believes in making industry grow and making our economy grow. And I remember that we looked at and talked to the auto manufacturers, and they said, we are never going to build a car that is fueled by hydrogen if there are no fueling stations. So we said, before we get into this argument and talk about was first, the chicken or the egg, let's just go and start building the hydrogen highway. And we went to the oil companies. I remember we went to Chevron in San Francisco and said, can you help us building the hydrogen highway? And they said, well, if you are inclusive and you work together with us on all of the different issues, we are more than happy. And that's exactly what we did. Because we needed the gas stations. You cannot create gas stations from scratch because most of the corners are already tied up with other gas stations, so you cannot come up with new gas stations. So the idea is to go to those gas stations that are owned by those oil companies and say, can we put a pump in there for hydrogen fuel? Or eventually also electric plug-in and those kind of things. And we worked it out, and we now have almost 50 hydrogen stations in California, enough to get with a hydrogen-fueled car all over the state of California without running out of fuel. And eventually we will have 100 and 150, 200. So we are really the only state that has that, but it is also, again, by bringing people together and working together.
Was that your greatest contribution, you think, as the 30th governor of California?
No, this is one of many.
So, oh, one of them. So you're able to mention a couple. I'll give you the chance to elaborate on that one.
No. I mean, I think that when it comes to the environment, as I've mentioned earlier, AB 32 is one of the things that I'm most proud of, because we really made a commitment with the Air Resources Board and the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and everyone, to reducing our greenhouse gases by 25% by the year 2020 and by 85% by the year 2050. So those are the kind of things that are really huge accomplishments, and it took a lot of negotiating and working very hard. But I'm as proud of the solar, the million solar roofs. I'm as proud of the renewables that, I remember when I came into office, we had 10% of renewables. Now we are 20%. By the year 2020, we will be at 33%. So that's really great gains. We have had no energy blackouts during my time in office, which in the previous administrations there was so many, and which did in the last governor. And so I think that it's important that you just move forward on every level, and not only move forward and just think about California, but we wanted to inspire the rest of the United States. So we formed partnerships with other states. We formed partnerships with states in Mexico. We formed partnerships with provinces in Canada and in China and in India and in Australia. And so we wanted to spread and to kind of prove the point I'm making. We don't have to wait for an international agreement. I think that the United Nations and Ban Ki-moon is doing an extraordinary job of being persistent and making this his priority, and year after year go and try and get an international agreement going. And it is admirable. And remember, people say it's impossible, but as Nelson Mandela said, it's always impossible until it's done. Then no one says it's impossible anymore. And that's what I believe. We have many times in elections with propositions, like good government propositions or anything, or environmental propositions. We have sometimes lost 5 times. And the press came to me and said, don't you get the message that people have voted no 5 times? And I said, no, I don't get the message. I said, because I come from the lifting background. We did not just try to lift the weight 5 times, and then after I couldn't lift it, after the 5th time I gave up. I said, there will be no world champions. If you will give up after 5 times trying. In sports, you try and you try and you try, and sometimes you fail 10 times, and the 11th time I lifted my 500-pound bench press in front of 2,000 people at the German championships. So you try and you try, and the same is with policies. I remember Teddy Kennedy has tried universal health care his entire life, and he passed away, and it was not done yet. You see what I'm saying? So we should never give up. And this is why I always tell people, yes, it is a struggle to move forward our agenda, but never, ever give up. We got to fight and march forward, and that's why I talk very heavily about vision. Because when you have a vision, it is so much fun to fight the war and to fight those battles and to move forward. People always ask me in bodybuilding, how could you train every day 5 hours in the gym? And I said, I looked forward to the next set and to the next rep, to do the next 20 sit-ups, the next 50 squats, the next 100 chin-ups, because I knew every rep meant to get one step closer to accomplishing my vision and to turn it into reality. And that's why it is so much fun when you have a vision. That's why I always tell people, have a vision and then go after that vision and learn how to sell that vision.
No pain, no gain, huh?
That's what they say. And
Anything
I can
is
tell you on my
possible.
forehead,
Yeah.
no gain, no pain.
But are you genuinely an environmental crusader? Is this really deeply, you know, in your heart, really deep felt project? Or is it more of a promotional campaign? I have to ask you that.
Well, you have to be in a promotional campaign, but it is deep in my heart at the same time, because otherwise you couldn't do that for that many years. You cannot fake your way through that many years. And let me tell you, I didn't start out being an environmentalist. I started out in protecting the environment because I come from Austria, and in Austria it was kind of like always common knowledge that you got to protect the environment. So I grew up with it, but not really being intense about it at all. And later on, when I became governor, and as I got the information, and as I was educated by people that were experts, that were much smarter than I was, I became more and more interested in that subject and became more and more convinced that God has put me in this world to fight those kind of causes and to use my skills to fight for those kind of causes. And so that's what I do.
Yeah, so what was your wake-up call?
I think it was just gaining that information, seeing that how much we as the world increase our carbon output every year. I mean, just think about it. We just have reached 7 billion population, just this last month. By the year 2030, they said that we will be 8 billion. So that's a 14% or so increase. And so that means that the whole world has to per capita reduce by 14% the output of CO2 just to be even when we have this extra billion people come into this world. So it shows you how important it is and the urgency here, that how we have to really fight in order to get that accomplished. And of course, also Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's vision of having energy for everybody by the year 2030 is another very important vision that we want to turn into reality.
There have been many readers of the Norwegian newspaper VG. They want to ask you questions, you know. And one of the things they want to ask you about is also a question that Anthony Giddens touched upon earlier today. Now, what are your greatest climate concerns?
Well, I think it's what I just said earlier, that we have a tremendous growth of population, and the world is exploding very fast. And therefore, we have to really do everything that we can to develop the technologies so that it is possible to produce cars that are as inexpensive as the cars that are existing right now, so that we don't have the gasoline-fueled cars that cost $40,000 and the electric car costs $80,000. What we want to do is we want to get technology to a place where the electric car is also $40,000. The hydrogen-fueled car is also $40,000. So when people go to the car, to the auto show or to the car shop, that they can choose between all of those fuels, and they will inevitably then choose electric cars because they want to participate in creating a greener future.
So what's going to happen to the car industry?
I think there will be, the key thing is that we keep pushing. We in California, we have passed laws, so the auto industry knows that they can't anymore, you know, fool around with California. They all have sued us, all of them. Every car manufacturer in the world has sued California, and we have gone through all of those battles, and now they're settled, and they realized those guys will not move backwards. They will never give up. We are like an Alabama tick. We are here to stay. We are dug in deep, and we're here to stay, and that's why we want the national government, the federal government, we want them to adjust to us, so it would make it cheaper for the car manufacturers not to have every state be different and every country be different, but to have one rule for the whole world, ideally. First, one rule for the nation, for the whole nation, and I think we have a good shot to get there.
What kind of car do you drive?
I have many cars. I have, you know, like I said, Hummers that are biofueled, that are hydrogen-fueled cars. I have a Bentley. I have a Porsche. I have, I mean, I could be sitting here for an hour to go on with all the different cars.
You're not embarrassed about it at all?
No, I'm not embarrassed about it because I only drive one car at a time.
I'll give you that one. You've really, after you came here to Oslo, you've praised Norway and the Norwegian government for taking a lead in combating climate change. However, we are also a very major oil and gas exporter. Do you have any mixed feelings about this?
Not at all, because look, if Norway doesn't sell it, you know, China will sell it, or Russia will sell it, or Brazil will sell it, or Mexico will sell it. So there's a certain amount of oil that is needed, it's supply and demand. I think the important thing is of what Norway is doing is to take some of this money and take it for studying new energy, to study new technology, to invest it in the right things. I think they're doing a terrific job, and by moving, you know, being carbon neutral from 2050 to 2030, all of those things I think are really great moves. And I think, to be honest with you, Norway is known internationally of having been really good with the environment. So I think you have a very good reputation here, and I know there will be some people that will complain about what they're selling oil. I think that's garbage. I think that they should continue and should use that money for something wise, and they've been doing a great job.
But what would your message to Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg be if you were to meet him now?
I think that my message is you're doing a terrific job. Keep on going this way. Be a leader and be out there and show other nations how to lead and how to follow the footsteps of this country. I think that they have been doing a great job here.
You know, the audience here is also full of decision makers from different countries. Now, could you offer any advice as how to get acceptance for really bold climate initiatives, for really groundbreaking initiatives?
Well, I think that, look, I have always had the approach to treat things a little bit more casually than to be too intense about how you sell. Because it's the same, we had a guy by the name of Jack LaLanne in America, who was the fitness guru, and a very, very dear friend of mine who just passed away with the age of 96. But his approach was even though he was on television all the time and he was selling fitness, but he had a very tough approach. He would go to people and say, you must take 250 liver and yeast pills a day, and you must do 5,000 sit-ups, and otherwise you're a girly man, and all of those kind of things. It was a little bit too much. So he made you feel guilty. So my approach is to say, hey, why don't you start with just, 5 chin-ups, 5 push-ups, and do a few sit-ups, and do some stretches, and take it easy, and then just move in and increase the exercises. And the same is with the environment. I think that the way some people sell the environment is kind of like, you're using a flat screen TV. Do you know that this is like 40% more energy than a regular TV? I mean, that's not to make, that doesn't work to make people feel guilty. Oh, you have a jacuzzi. Do you know how much energy that takes to have a jacuzzi? Is that hooked up to solar, or what's going on here at your house? It's too much. I walked into a store here today, into a ski shop, and I said, what are those boots for? And the guy said, oh, those boots are for, for those skis, like the old-fashioned way, when you walk up the mountain and then you ski down. We believe in skiing green. We don't use the lifts and the gondolas. We walk up the mountain. We are skiing green. Do you get it? I say, yeah, I got it. So it's a little much, okay? Because I don't see that many people around the world that will walk up to 13,000 feet to ski down every day. So there's certain things that are a little bit overboard. So I would say that that's why I stress always on my speeches communication. It's so important that we communicate it the right way and we draw people in, and to make it exciting and to make it sexy and to make it kind of like you want to be with the program. I mean, I always think about things like the movie, and there's maybe some people here, they were not even born yet, but the movie Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta. He came out with that movie, And within a year, there were discotheques all over the world. Even in my little village in Austria, where I grew up, they had 2 discotheques. They never had a discotheque or a bar before. There were discotheques and people were competing in dancing. It was like extraordinary what an explosion there was worldwide because of that movie. And it just shows you there was no one out there trying to make anyone feel guilty, only make feel good. And everyone participated, and that was kind of like a revolution, a dancing revolution. It was extraordinary. And so that's what we have to do, is we have to find ways to bring people in and to make people participate, because as I said, the most powerful thing you can do is when ordinary folks buy into your policy, and when ordinary folks start getting excited about it and ask themselves, what can I do at home? How can I change what kind of shopping bags I use? Let's get rid of the paper bags. Let's get rid of the plastic bags. I can use reusable bags like my mother used to use. And those are the kind of things that we need ordinary people to do. Or, for instance, to turn off the shower after 5 minutes, not to sit there in the shower like you're in a spa and waiting, for 15 minutes or 20 minutes the water come down. In California, that's an absolute no-no, because we have limited amount of water, and the delivery of water takes 20% of our entire energy to deliver water. So I taught my kids how only to take 5-minute showers, and how to turn off the lights when they walk out of the room, and how to use recyclable bags and all of those kind of things. So I think what we want to do is we want to bring people into the movement, the environmental movement, rather than making it too intense where they kind of shy away or go the other direction.
We really need to relate to people's daily life then, huh?
That's right.
We have to wrap it up a bit and talk about your rules of life. They're pretty hardcore, though, your 6 rules of life. One of them is, you've been into it several times, it's, trust yourself and never listen to the naysayers. That's one of your major rules, isn't it?
Well, the other one is the 7 Ps, which most people don't know. 7 Ps. Proper prior planning prevents pissed poor performance. These are the 7 Ps, okay? Remember that. Proper prior planning prevents pissed poor performance. That's it. It's another rule.
But
the Marines use that in America.
But your rules are really tough, You say that, well, anything is possible. That's right. And if you have to work your butt off, and if you have too little sleep at night, then sleep faster. Just sleep faster.
Well, I mean, you have to understand that I come from, Europe. People are used to working harder in Europe, I think. And so when you go to America, for me it was not really unusual to work on construction, to make enough money so I could live, and to work out 5 hours a day for the world championships in bodybuilding, and to go to school, to go to university, and to go to acting classes at night from 8 o'clock at night to 12 midnight 3 times a week. I did all of those things simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And people say, well, wait a minute, how did you do that? I said, I only sleep 6 hours a day, and then I have 18 hours left for work and for progress and for improving myself and educating myself and participate and serve the country, serve the people, and serve myself and do my sports and all of those kind of things. So we just have to look at it. This is only if you're a little bit more intense about all of these things. If you're an ordinary person, forget about all this, okay? Because I understand that there's people that just want to relax and they work their 8 hours, go home, and they just kick back and those. Yeah. No, because I just, I feel like there's only one life. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing. So let's go all out with everything. And so I go always all out, and until I fall over, until it's 6 feet under. So so that's to me what I enjoy about life.
And everyone wants to know if you still pump iron.
I still pump iron pretty much every day, and I do cardiovascular work, bicycling or running or different swimming or whatever to get my heart rate up for a certain period of time. And in the winter, of course, a lot of skiing.
And you're back to the movies again. Is it fun being in the action mode?
It's great to be back with movies.
You're looking forward to the Expendables.
Right. The Expendables I did earlier in Bulgaria with Stallone and with Bruce Willis and Jason Statham and all those guys. And then I went to New Mexico where we started The Last Stand. And I will be finished with that one in the middle of December, and it will come out sometimes end of next year.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have a final question now. What do you want your legacy to be? Is it Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia, the #1 action hero of all time, the 38th governor of California who made a difference? Or is it the environmental crusader who made a difference?
I would say that I let other people, think about my legacy. But I mean, I think that to me the important thing is that I leave this world a better world than when I came in. That to me is the bottom line. I think that's a responsibility that we all have. I grew up like that, and I was very fortunate that when I married my wife, I got to know her family really well. Everyone in her family always were public servants. I learned from her mother and from her father a lot about public service, so I had that always around me. So it inspired me that I wanted to, so today I have to say that I want to be, of service to the people of the world and use my talents in order to accomplish that. Okay, thank you very much.
And we'll watch your next move, and we know you'll be back. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll be back. Thank you.